Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and this afternoon I'm joined by Peter McGackie. It's half-time. St Mirren are beating us 2-1, and we're going to talk about it, Peter. Plenty to discuss. How slack are we at the back? Carter Vickers is a rock, but you take him out and we look completely vulnerable at the back.
I think it's the whole team. I don't think you can just blame the back line, but I can't really put too much on Iwata because he's just been put in there and he's not really played there before, and he's against some like physical players. So the whole team just looks pretty disjointed. The passing isn't there, the movement isn't there, the sort of relationships that we've built up. I think it's this sort of weird end of the season game sort of feel. Do you know what I mean? But it is something that you don't want to happen when you still get games to play and performances to put in. You don't want to be seeing performances like this, but it's exactly the way I thought this type of game was going to go. I sort of in my head I was thinking 4-2 to Celtic. I definitely expected them to score maybe 1 or 2 goals, and it's proved so. I don't know, maybe we need to have some substitutes on in the second half. Maybe switch some people in positions. I think Ralston for the first goal wasn't particularly good. I thought the communication was bad, and then he sort of dived in to the tackle, and I think it was Curtis Main. The angle's too hard for him to shoot on his left foot. So he's always going to chop back. And I think Ralston just runs in and sells his cell. And I'm thinking, is Johnston at right back? Does he sell his cell like that? Does he get turned back inside? And I just don't think he does. So that's a wee bit of concern. Like I said, Iwata is just sort of been thrown in there. So, I mean, he looks all right on the ball. But again, when you've got St Mirren sort of throwing, just punting the ball at you all day and throwing their centre forwards up, then it's going to prove difficult. And I thought it was going to be like this type of game. But I think going forward, we've been pretty poor as well, pretty disjointed.
We have been. I mean, there's quite a few points I want to discuss. I'm going to start off with Joe Hart, and I know that Daniel F., who comes in on a regular basis on the comments, has mentioned Joe a few times this season. And, I don't particularly disagree with this because I feel that in that first half, what I'm wanting from Joe Hart is I want a commanding performance. He's playing behind a defence we've never played together. And it was the same at Ibrox last week. And what I'm seeing, Peter, is I'm seeing him coming out where he should be commanding his area and catching crosses and corners, and he's punching and he's parrying. And in actual fact, the very fact that he parried and he did it against Rangers last week is what keeps the attack alive for St Mirren for the second goal. And he needs to be far stronger than that. He's got to be braver, and he's got to give his backline a wee bit of confidence because, as I said, they've not played together until today. Daniel comes in, one good game for us this season. You're talking about Joe Hart. And I think that, that there breeds a bit of vulnerability and the confidence in the back four. What you want is somebody to be commanding. You want them to lead from the back. And I've not seen it from Joe Hart. And he's a guy that, every time he's spoken about or criticised on Acsom, you suffer the wrath of a lot of comments coming in saying, how dare you say we can get an upgrade on Joe Hart? I think we're seeing it today. I think we're seeing it last week. He isn't the infallible force that some people think that he is. He needs to be stronger. He definitely needs to be stronger.
I mean, and we've seen him playing games against like Rangers in the semi-final and stuff when balls have come in the box, and he has come out and collected and took the pressure off the defence. So it's not as if he can't do it. You wonder why week to week some of these keepers that you see, like, they decide to start parrying things and punching things instead of just collecting them.
Yeah.
But I think distribution-wise, and this is probably throughout the whole team, I think there's been a lot of times he's got the ball and he's looking to give the ball out, and there's just nothing happening. And it never takes us that long to release the ball or get it out for by kicks, or when he collects the ball, he's immediately thrown out to maybe the right or left back or into O'Reilly or Hatate, sorry. So I feel as if there's not a lot of options. The team just doesn't seem to be sort of motoring the way it usually is, and the way we're used to seeing it, and it's quite frustrating to watch. to be honest.
It is. Now, I get that it's an end of season game, absolutely.
Yeah.
But my concern with that is it's an end of season game that is leading into a Scottish Cup final.
Yeah.
If we go back, I've seen yesterday was the anniversary of the 1989 Scottish Cup final where we beat Rangers 1-0. They were going for the treble as it happens, and Joe Miller scored the goal. And I always enjoy watching that back. And I watched it back last night on the various Twitter channels. But on that particular occasion, I remember the games leading into it, Peter, there was a sense of confidence because we were winning games, albeit 1-0, and Joe Miller was scoring the single goal. I remember being at Love Street and he scored the goal. We won the game. We played Hibs. He scores. It's 1-0. We go into the Rangers game and it's 1-0. It's about breeding confidence and ensuring that there really isn't anybody in that dressing room at Hampden and before that Scottish Cup final looking at the player to their left or the right and thinking, I didn't really fancy you, mate. You know? Now, one thing I would say about Joe Hart, I'm not going to go studs up on him here, right? I know what he's brought to the team. I've been a massive fan and champion of Joe Hart. But we had as I said earlier before the game, we had a show during the week there where we were talking about what we're going to do in terms of that area of the park, the goalkeepers. And you and I spoke about it. We've got 6 at the moment. Hazard will be away because he's out of contract. Bain is staying. We know that Hart's going to be here. I think if we do go into the transfer market to buy a goalkeeper, I'm not wanting to buy a backup. I want to buy somebody who is an upgrade, and then him and Joe Hart can fight for the jersey. It's the only way you're going to improve. And I think we've seen this week and last week some of the things people are going to say to me, well, you know, we've got the best defensive record in the league. Yeah, I know. And I know also that we win the games when it matters, Peter. But I just think in the last couple of weeks we've seen some deficiencies, and it's easy to pinpoint them and say, listen, maybe that is something that we need to improve on. You mentioned also the disjointed nature. How often have you seen 2 weeks in a row, 2 of our players coming together like that? Last week it was Starfelt McGregor. This time round it was Awata and Ralston. And that, for me, when you see that, it breeds confidence in the St Mirren team to think, oh, by the way, they're all at sea without Carter Vickers. Let's hit them again. And I think that's what we've seen.
Over the years, Celtic seem to have this sort of way about them, just giving cheap goals. You know, when we've been pouring in seasons gone by, obviously, when we're at a peak, we look really strong and we don't look as if we're going to concede. But just giving a wee drop off, giving a couple of substitutions, we look back to that type of Celtic, you know, like in Europe, where you would just get silly goals away. It's totally avoidable goals. And I look at the 2 goals today, and I just go, so avoidable. Our own mistakes. I mean, the second goal, just a wee looped header back in, and everybody's static. And then just Joe Hart stuck to his line. I'm like, that's just so avoidable, that goal. So it's a hard one because, like, if the league wasn't won and we're playing like this, do you know what I mean? There's big concerns. Because
that's why we're discussing it, Peter, because people like to think, you know, but we're winning the treble, we're 2 in a row. That's fair enough. But we can only comment on what we're seeing. And that first half today and that game last week has been extremely poor.
Exactly. And regardless if you've won the league or not, you still have to put performances. And I'm sure Ange won't be happy with what he's seen. He's got standards that he wants to maintain. And everybody's got a chance and everybody's got an opportunity to come in and play a game in front of Celtic fans at home. And you want to go and win games. So there's no excuse for these sort of like lowering standards or anything like that, and that's what we've seen. We know St Mirren play like this. I've seen it over the years plenty of times, these type of games. But I would we just how we overcome that is just getting our passing better, a bit better movement, working for each other. But it just looks as if everybody's sort of just looking at each other to doing things, and it's like people are making runs, and it's that the pass isn't coming at the right time. It's maybe been overhit, underhit, things like that. It's like when you start seeing that in the first half, you go, "Oh, is it one of the days?" And again, like, we're not going to crack up because the league is won. It's a hard one to say, but it's adding on to the performance maybe against Hearts, the performance against Rangers, and the performance today. And you get 2 more games to go before a cup final, and you really want momentum. You want people to play with confidence. You don't want any question marks. And at the minute, there is a few question marks over some players.
Yeah, you mentioned when I went right in there with the defence, you did mention that it's not just the defence, and I agree with that. The passing in the midfield has been horrific. And that really is unusual. There was 3 in about the space of 5 minutes from Callum McGregor alone.
Yeah.
Just slack passing into no man's land, Peter, and that's very uncharacteristic of Ange's team.
I said that it was first 10 minutes, I think, and McGregor put it out to the right-hand side and put it at the park like 3 times, or behind Ralston or behind Jota. And you're like, it's very unusual because, and unfortunately, like when we start like that, you think, are we going to pick it up? Are we going to get into a rhythm? But it seems like when we start a wee bit slack, we don't seem to pick it up. And then the crowd start getting on you.
Yeah.
And it's difficult. And then I think you start forcing things. You start playing passes when you shouldn't be playing them and stuff. I think just try to think what you would need in that second half. I think it's worth, even if you're going to lose the game, if it risks losing the game, I would make some changes. Maybe stick on, maybe move Jota to the left. I don't think Maeda's been great. He's having one of the performances where it's just like he's sort of running down blind alleys sometimes, and the delivery's not coming in. And I think Jota looks a bit more lively. So I'm just thinking, get more people, maybe flood the midfield a bit more, get more control in there, and start playing wee passes, maybe 1-2s outside the box. Because I think maybe we've got a chance to, like O'Reilly, Hatate shooting through outside the box. We'll probably get a way back in there. I thought when Kyogo scored 1 each, I thought, right, well, that's us going to start playing, but it's just no happened. And it's again, I think Iwata's been fine. I know some people don't think he's been great. I think he's been fine on the ball, but again, you can't put too much pressure on him because he's by all respects, he's a midfielder that's getting thrown in there, and you can really tell the drop off when Carter Vickers isn't there. It's
Big
night
time.
and day,
Big time.
day.
And again, as a opposition manager, you're going to be looking at that and saying, he's playing out of position, let's target him. And that's exactly what's happened. Curtis Main, very physical player. We know what he does. And he's got the 2 goals today. You and Boy Martin, 2 terrible goals. Absolutely, mate. Missing Carter Vickers big time. We certainly are. And John Sweeney is saying, without Carter Vickers and Johnson, that defence is woeful. An investment needed pronto. Yeah, we're going to enjoy the treble if and when it comes. We're going to enjoy the fact that we've won back-to-back leagues. But I agree with you. I think there is investment needed in the summer. And not just based on today's game, by the way. It's not a knee-jerk reaction. I think the left-hand side has looked a lot stronger as it happens when Bernaby's out and Taylor's in. But there's one thing I'm going to say, Peter. I want to know your thoughts on this, right? So you hear about players coming back from an injury, for example, and then got to get back to match fitness. I think there's another level, which is Ange fitness. And I think what I mean by that is, like, Moy was at a point where he was almost undroppable in the Celtic side not that long ago. He goes out the team and it takes him a while. In fact, he's never got back up to that standard. Hatate was out the team. It's taken him a while to get back up to his level. Abada, we've seen it last week. And I think that there's a bit of a trend there where if you come back, Maeda probably today, if you're out that side for a while, it takes you games to get right back, not just to match fitness, but back up to that tempo. I think we're seeing it just now. I think we're seeing it with Ralston. I don't think he's there. When Ralston was flying, and before Johnson came to the club, I think Ralston was our best right back. He was outperforming Juranovic. But then he didn't have games for a long period of time. I mean, the Rangers game was just his 13th appearance, Peter. So I think when you put a player into this Ange team, it really is taking a while for them to acclimatise to that tempo. And I think there's too many of them off it at the moment.
It just seems to be one of the ones where a lot of people have been out at the same time or maybe missed a lot of games, and he's thrown them back in at the same time, and it's just no clicking. When you talk about Ralston, I was one of his sort of detractors. I thought we could have done a lot better than him, but to be fair, he turned it around, and for a good few months, he had a really rich vein of form, and I thought, right, well, I'm happy to stick with you if you're going to keep this up. So I'm just hoping that we're not seeing him revert back to a level, and hopefully it's just a fitness issue, but just getting back up to speed, because I feel that he's been pretty slack. A few passes, doesn't look. It offers you something going forward, but again, the quality maybe crosses into the box aren't great, and his defending's been a wee bit lackadaisical at times. So again, that you could be right. It could be just a matter of a fitness sort of issue and getting back up to speed, because you look at the other side when Taylor's come back, and the other side's been a lot better. But I think I think Taylor's been getting more involved in the play. He's been coming inverted a lot more, and I really like it when Taylor's in there. And I really like maybe towards the end of the second half, Ralston was starting to come in, because I think we really need to start flooding that midfield a wee bit more to pressure them, hem them in, and start getting chances like that, because I think we're just sort of maybe going back to front and too quickly, and it's just sort of breaking down. And so I think we need to get more control of the game, because against St Mirren, the copy and paste, they do it every game, and it seems to work against Celtic. But this is what I expected. But do you know what? If we're going to lose these games or have bad performances, I'd rather we just use them to see some other players. Then why not throw? I know we're going to risk possibly losing the game, but why not throw Bernabeu on? Why not throw O on? I want to see what they can do. I want to see if they can make a difference. Do you know what I mean? Because it's coming towards the end of the season, and I don't want to go into the next season not knowing what these players can do. So that's what I want to see.
No, you're right. 3 or 4 players, if we discover when we're quite deep into next season that they're not what we need, then obviously we're in trouble then. No, I absolutely get that thinking. Second half's about to kick off. You've predicted 4-2. I'm going to stick with that myself, and hopefully we do see a better second half for Celtic. Thank you, the 800 plus who were joining us and commenting on the YouTube channel. Thank you all for getting involved. Let's join the second half. Thank you to Peter McGackie for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.